Welcome to the second and final discussion about The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood.
So did everyone finish the book?
Yes.
You know, strangely, I didn't.
Wow.
And it's not because I don't like the book. I was just like, my health was not good over Christmas. And I got the book into the library and it had holds. Right? It had holds. So I returned it because I felt like, oh, I can't just finish it. And somebody was waiting for the hold, right? Like I was feeling guilt. So I returned it. I was like, I'll just go buy it. I wasn't really in a good place to go out to a store, you know? So I didn't buy it until recently. And then I was like, oh no, I have another book club. I was like, I didn't read that book. So like, it's 2 books. So, and I haven't finished that. I already had that book club and I haven't finished it. I'm so close. My mom's visiting and she came to the book club with me. So we walked to my friend lives close by. So we walked. She's like, okay, I'll fill you in. Cause she read it in like a day. My mom reads so fast. She's like, that's why I let her read it first. I'm like, here, you read this first. And on the way, she filled me into the whole thing. And literally she's like, and then that was the book. Like we walked right up to the door as she was like, and that's what the book was about. And she didn't know where this person lived. She just finished giving me the summary in the right amount of time.
That's good.
She couldn't do that for the Handmaid's Tale. I have read it in the past.
That's right.
But yeah. Anyway, in the meantime, I bought it. So,
you know what I want to interrupt about? I dislike these new covers. I want old classic covers, and so many times it's either like pictures of the actors if it's getting turned into a movie. You know what I mean? Like I want original covers. And I went to a bookstore to find a book, and there's a whole table full of books that have been remade with like completely different covers. Like it's a thing now. It's not even just like, oh, there's a movie coming, here's the new cover. Like they're like as if they're reinventing them. Maybe they're trying to.
Well, they do that with different editions. Like they've been doing that. That's what they do with different editions. They put a new cover on it.
I guess I prefer first edition covers then. That's what I'll say.
But I have something good that happened because I often write down like quotes from the book and page numbers where things happen so I can go back and like remember what happened in the book. And this is a different version than the book I had from the library, but the page numbers are the same.
That's rare.
Oh,
Wasn't that crazy? I was like, yeah, please, you know, and I was like, and there it is. I was like, oh, okay, so I'm fine. So if I want to look at my little book of notes, then I'm all good.
What have you noted about The Handmaid's Tale, Meredith?
A lot of pressure.
Just pull a random.
Here's a random. I like this one. This is early in the book, and it's Aunt Lydia who's talking about freedom. She goes, there's more than one kind of freedom, said Aunt Lydia. Freedom to and freedom from. In the days of anarchy, it was freedom to. Now you're being given freedom from. Don't underrate it. So her point was like, before you had freedom to do everything, but you weren't free to be safe. You couldn't walk alone at night. And now you don't have to worry about that because you're not allowed. Now you're we're going to take care of you. Right? You have the freedom to choose what you want to do with your career. But now you're not allowed to have a job. So you don't have to worry about it.
You can't read.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Isn't that the crazy part with all the signs are
I
like...
have freed you from literacy.
Yeah, free you from choice. You know, the freedom from choice. Because like, and that's a thing where people now have so much choice. It causes like stress and anxiety and all of these things. And it actually takes a lot of your energy having to make choices. So anyway, it's interesting.
What were you going to say, Sarah? I would rather
freedom too.
I was going to say, isn't it interesting how in the book, even the stores, they had to take the names off the stores because they realized that women were reading the name of the stores to go to. So then they just put a picture. And she said, it used to be called this, like milk and bread or whatever. She's like, but then they realized we were reading. So now it's just a picture of a cow and a loaf of bread or whatever she said. Like, that's crazy. Can't even read like that.
There was something else that she... Well, the Scrabble was major.
The Scrabble.
Yeah, the Scrabble was major.
I totally forgot that that's what they did. Like, because I read this is my third time. And I forgot that's the game they played. Like, I remember the other, like, more extreme things. But the fact that the first thing he wanted to do when she came to the room was play Scrabble. And the first time she was, like, trying to pretend she didn't know everything. And then after she's like, okay, no, I'm going to show him how smart I am. With all the words I know.
I like that she lists words and I'm like put them in my memory bank for the next time I play Scrabble.
Oh, hopefully you'll get lucky enough to have those letters.
Rhythm. Ooh. Larynx.
Larynx.
What were you going to say, Kim?
I didn't like it. How about that?
Oh.
Yeah.
You didn't like it?
Yeah. I don't want to repeat my personal journal. I think it was mostly a case, I did say this in the personal journal, of expectations and like, oh, everyone loves this. Like, it's such a great book, you know, like it's well spoken of, like it's a popular, important book in history, whatever, right? Like it's got a
classic.
Yes. And it's studied
in school. It's important. Right. Or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. It
comes with like I feel like an automatic, like you will like this, right? A hype. Yeah. Like it wouldn't have the hype if it wasn't good, or so I thought. I just felt like I was waiting for it to get started. And then I didn't feel like it actually got started until literally the last page. And I was like, okay, I guess I got to read the next one. Like,
this is a spoiler for anyone who hasn't finished the book. I always thought she escaped. And I've read it 3 times. So in my mind, I've just made it that Nick helped her escape, and that's why her tapes are out there. But that's not necessarily true. She leaves it kind of open, like maybe she did, maybe she didn't, maybe she died. Like, you don't know. So no one knows what happened to her. But I think because Margaret Atwood left it like open-ended, I said this in my personal journal too, in my mind, I filled in the blanks to what I wanted it to happen, that she escaped and Nick was a good guy, and then she had her baby, and like, I don't know, I had all this, I finished the book and I was like, oh, we never find out? Why do I always think she's escaped?
Do you think when authors do that, where they leave it like, you don't know what's going to happen next, but you're like invested in the characters maybe? Do you think they do that? No. Not why they do that, but do you think when they do that, it makes you want to read it again? Like,
No, this is the very thing that
I hate that.
No, yes, exactly. I really dislike, first of all, I really dislike when I am putting in time because I'm expecting a payoff and then I don't get it, right? Like the book never gets better or like whatever, right? Or also when it's not really an ending. I don't mind if they leave it like you don't know, like, did she, I confused a little bit because I thought it was clear that she got away, like that Nick did help her and that she wasn't getting taken to certain deaths. She was getting taken to wherever the next adventure was going to be, the adventure that I was reading the book for that is not contained in the book. So like, that's what I think is happening next.
Do you think that that's part of that is to try to transport the reader into kind of like this feeling that, I can't remember her name now. Offred? that Offred is feeling, where it always feels like something might happen and nothing ever happens, or whatever. Like I think that's like, you know, valid. That feeling you're getting, like maybe
I will take that.
Put in there because you're trying to. She's trying to make you feel what she's feeling, where she's like, I'm not crazy, and maybe I am, and I'm stuck in the past, but I'm trying to be present. You know, like all the things that she's going through. Like maybe it's and like
probably Nick is helping her because he's like, he said maybe and whatever, but there's always that little looming like, or he's an eye, and you can't trust her in to save his own skin.
I don't even know what an eye is.
Isn't like the eye spy guys?
They're kind of like the military.
If they were having a big giant affair, wouldn't he have killed her like way many rendezvous ago? Like, wouldn't it take one rendezvous?
I agree with you. I think that Nick saved her and she made it through, but it doesn't.
Also, I didn't know she was pregnant. Is that a fact, or do you find that out in the beginning of the testament?
She just thinks she might be. Remember, she said that she thinks she might be.
I don't remember because it's like even less filed away than normal stuff for me, which is not very filed because I was disappointed. So I'm like, well, that doesn't need to take up space in my mind.
It's interesting because like somebody else was saying that they didn't like this, and I think it's because it lacked finality, like they didn't know for sure, and like I think maybe it depends on what people like in a book. Like I like how she like takes you into the character, and you're trying to figure what this character is saying or thinking, and or what she's saying is true, because it's just from her point of view, and she's not even sure if she knows what's real anymore sometimes, right? And so if a book doesn't wrap everything up, it doesn't bother me at all.
I don't mind that it wasn't wrapped up so much.
But you felt like the climax didn't happen, the one that you're
yeah,
like,
yeah,
I'm going to get the payoff and the book's over.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So I like, it's not that I didn't know what happened, because I feel like I do know what happened. I just don't know like the details of it, you know, like I don't get to hear that story. But I do like your point about if the author did it on purpose to make the reader like really experience the off-read experience. That's I like it. I hate like that point because I think it's valid, but like it makes me mad because I'm like, well, I don't like being manipulated by authors.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I don't need to be like, this is what it must feel like, right? And I'm like, I don't want to. I'm not doing a submersion experience where I become the character. I don't want that.
I love that. Sometimes if I'm reading a really good book and they're really good at that, sometimes I like have like trouble with my identity, like, you know. Like, I was like, is this me or is this the
That's
book?
Hilarious.
Like, if I get too invested in a character,
Dan's like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, sometimes I'm like, I think but it does
there?
happen where I'm like, I gotta read a different author for a while or whatever. Like, yeah. And then I always have that thing where like, is reality real, or am I in a coma and just making this all up? You know, did I write this book?
Matrixy stuff.
Deep in my Matrixy stuff.
Book interrupted.
So my interruption is this. So I'm kind of obsessed with this is a Twilight series book, and I know it's 15 years late on the big craze of Twilight, and at the time I was like, I'm not into vampires. Like, I read I'm Jane Austen type person, so I just never was into it. And because we were reading so many kind of challenging books this year on like hard topics, in between one of the book cycles, I was like, I just need something with fluff. And my husband, Amadou, was given, someone had given him a box of used books. And so we had Twilight, the first book, in our bookshelf. And because I'm never going to turn down the books. And so I read it and I was immediately obsessed. So now this is the last book, but apparently there is one from Edward's perspective. So I will be reading that as well. So instead of reading the book I should be reading right now, which is our first banned book for season 3, The Handmaid's Tale, I am reading Breaking Dawn instead. And I'm so obsessed. I'm so obsessed with the vampire love. It's crazy. Who knew? I should have just listened to all those people. Jane Austen and Twilight. Brilliant.
Book interrupted. So like, I get that this story is supposed to be like scary, not too far off reality, dystopian future or whatever, but I feel like I don't care. Like, it was too boring. I was bored.
Just like, but the problem is she keeps you reading because you think something's about to happen.
Yes.
Constantly.
Yes.
You're like, maybe she's gonna get caught like sleeping with Nick, or maybe the wife is gonna tell on her, or maybe she will set her everything on fire with that match, or there's all these things that could happen. And none of them do.
I also feel like all of those things that could happen didn't even get introduced until at best midway, but I would even say 3/4 of the way through. Yeah. So
that's why I said to you last time, I'm like, the second half is when everything happens.
Yeah, but then lie. I didn't know you were a liar.
Everything does
Sarah.
happen then.
Almost everything.
Yeah, one thing, not when everything almost happens, I think would be more accurate. But
you know, that's when she
alert,
meets her friend again, right? Like, she meets her friend. She like leaves with like all these things happen, but we have to remember, I'm remembering when I said that to you from before, and I have these images in my head of the book being something totally different. And then when you read it again, it's like takes forever to get to the things that are happening, and then you forget. You're like, oh yeah, I don't know anything that happens to her after, or even if she did.
I think that's cool that you had all these things in your head, and then like that makes me want to reread a story now. It's a good comment on like human memory anyway, which I think we all know changes things that happened in the past all the time, right?
It's
like
unreliable,
we are not as memory as we think we are.
Yeah.
And so I think it's cool to see how your memory, what it did with the story. So that's like a really good, because you know how I don't usually read books again? That would be a
You're
reason
gonna read
why
this one again?
not this
like,
one ever again. No.
I was like, I
not
thought
this
you were
one.
going there, and I was like, huh. Well, that
No.
was a big turnaround. That didn't take much. Images.
Okay, fine. I'll read it again.
Okay.
No,
I did.
I will read
I'll
other
do it
books.
again and see what
Other
happens.
books again. Other books that I've forgotten whether they disappointed me or not. The pain is too fresh for this one. I'm not gonna put.
No,
myself
I think
through that
the
again.
more you read any book, because the one book I've read a lot is Pride and Prejudice. I read it all the time.
Especially when I'm feeling
And-
blue. I'm like, I need
Well,
a
actually,
Mr.
all
Darcy.
the Austen, and they are different. And I just read Midnight Sun, which is the Edwards version of the Twilight book, and I'm so obsessed. I can't.
I love how you're
I
kind
know,
of
I'm very late to
embarrassed
the
though.
game.
You're like
I
kind of
am.
embarrassed. You're like, I love it. I love vampires.
I love my
I'm
vampire
sorry.
love story. I love it so much.
It's just
Anyway,
because you're
and-
late. You wouldn't even feel weird if you were on
I
time with
know.
it, because like everyone did that. It fully
I know I'm
happened
just
for
late.
everyone.
That's why.
Yeah.
I know, because everyone's like so over it. But
yeah, you're all like,
like,
"Teen
yeah,
Edward!"
it was good. I'm like, I'm watching the movies. I'm like, yeah, we did that like 10 years ago. More? What?
But also, those are disappointing. I won't even watch those. They're so stupid.
Well,
I would way rather read those books again.
So I read the books, and then, as you guys know, I watched the movies. And then I'm reading Edward's book, and I was like, oh, this is not the movie at all. And then I started, because the movies even distort my memory of the books. So now I'm reading a book, and I was like, oh, right. Why did they change that major part of the movie, or what? You know what I mean? Like, so those kind of things.
Yeah.
So even then, reading that book makes me want to read the first Twilight again, because my memory is completely distorted because of all the other things I have consumed being obsessed with Twilight.
And then you'll have to
Changed
watch
the original book.
and you'll have to watch
Yeah.
the movies again and watch the sexy vampires and werewolves.
I already did.
What did you
We got
think about
Netflix
the
for Christmas.
casting?
I did not like the Jacob Black character,
Is that a
because
werewolf?
he's supposed to be this giant. Yeah, he's supposed to be a giant werewolf, and he's like some short guy. I was like, he's supposed to be massive. Like, everyone comments how giant he is, and in the book, in the movies, he's not at all. I think Edward was good. Casted really good. Yeah, I was okay with them.
I was disappointed with like the family members. Like, I can't remember the guy's name. He looks kind of like Tom Cruise, and he played the dad.
Oh yeah, Carlisle.
You know who I'm talking about? Yeah. And I just think that he looked so fake. Like, I don't know, they looked like Barbies, or you know what I mean? Like, I know that they're supposed to be hyper attractive, like that's part of their vampire-ness or whatever, but I just really felt like, I don't know, the movies were just so cheese, and they fully missed on the like heat and passion of the romance. You know what I mean? Like, they just went, and also the running through the forest scenes, that was a joke. Like,
but it was before they had so much.
I don't
good
care. I don't
stuff.
care.
Okay.
There's another way to do it. Like, that was like as if we three got together and decided to shoot a movie. That is how good that special effect was. Yes, it was so bad.
No.
He has like Bella on his back, and because he's a vampire, he can run super fast.
It's just him going like this with his legs going.
Yes.
Yeah,
As
it
the
was.
forest like runs by the background, like
Wonderful. I love that.
It's so bad.
I didn't read or watch these movies.
You should
I did-
you should read those books for like whenever
No.
you're getting too attached to someone that's messing up your life or whatever character. Like, read these; they're so good.
And I'm like, I'm gonna kill them.
They
I'm a
are. I
vampire.
couldn't
They're
put
so
it
good for
down.
like summer read, or you know what I mean, like whatever. You're not gonna learn anything. Like, it's pure like indulgence.
Entertainment.
Yes, entertainment.
It's
That's
just
a good
pure
word.
indulgence.
so
That's
good,
what I
though.
felt
It
indulgent
really is good.
reading it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, so you said that vampires are supposed to be like ultra attractive. What if you're
Yeah.
like, let's just say, an ugly person who gets bit by a vampire? Do you not become a vampire? Like, that doesn't
You
make any
become
sense.
attractive.
No, you become attractive.
Become
Yeah.
attractive.
Yeah. Like,
I
even
wonder
Bella.
what my transformation would be like, right?
You'd be the same. Your eyes would just be like their eyes like
Shiny.
indicate if they're hungry. So like if their eyes are more red, that means that they need the blood or whatever. But if their eyes are darker,
it doesn't make sense. If you need blood, your eyes would be not red.
Your eyes are red if you've had human blood.
There you go.
Yeah.
And then your eyes are dark if you want it, if you're hungry for
and that makes you look attractive because large
yes.
people
and
are
if you
attractive.
need animal blood, your eyes are amber. That's why Edward's eyes are amber.
Oh, also like your skin is just like, I don't think it's a comment on what actually equals attractiveness, but the things that maybe were flaws in you before are now fixed.
Like
so
nice hair, nice skin, and
yes. Yeah, your bone structure doesn't change.
Nice smelling breath or something.
Yes, all of that. Yes.
Your farts smell like roses.
That's right. That's right.
So Bella becomes a vampire. Spoiler. And when she does,
everybody knows already.
Her hair gets like thicker and more like full, and like her breasts grow, and her skin is like flawless all of a sudden. Like, and her dad comments, he's like, "You're my daughter, but you're not my daughter." Like, you know what I mean? She looks like herself, but not like more beautiful.
It's just the author's interpretation of like, I guess, eternity, right? Like, oh, now you can live forever. So I don't know. And like, it's superhero-esque.
Your telomeres never shorten.
Your what?
Nobody else telomeres? You know, the little ends of your DNA that protect your other DNA from damage. It's like several like base pairs long. It like, they deteriorate. So as they get shorter, you're more prone to like age-related sickness. So long telomeres, maybe you would live longer.
So those telomeres are part of the vampire transformation is probably eternal sheathing of the telomeres. Like they don't even deteriorate.
Always lengthening.
Yeah, they're growing. You're just getting better.
And they have a different number of DNA strands or something.
Chromosomes.
Thank you. They have less chromosomes. They have two more chromosomes than humans or something.
So you could have a test to see if somebody's a vampire.
And werewolves have one more chromosome than humans.
One?
Isn't that
one more?
How many chromosomes?
Come in pairs.
Well, isn't that the story with Down syndrome?
That's why. Oh, I don't know.
Isn't that the story with like?
I'm just talking vampire book.
Chromosome?
I think that's what it is. Werewolves have one more and vampires have two, and that's why their daughter had one, and she related more to the werewolves than she did the vampire.
Well, and that's another story altogether. Like this is now a podcast about Twilight, but
let's which I have not read.
Like you should read
it.
Yeah,
maybe
Meredith, you should read it for real. Like I would love to hear if you enjoyed it. It's just a good love story, really.
Yeah.
That's what it's
like. That's vampires.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's a good love story, and then it's like, you know, enhanced by the fact that it's also supernatural.
I want a love story that's got with banshees.
I was like, what? I don't like what makes a thing a banshee? Okay, all I know is about screaming.
Well, it's not necessarily screaming. So every family has a banshee, and if you hear the scream or song of the banshee, it tells you that death is coming for you. So you only hear a screaming or singing banshee when you're about to die.
However, wait a minute. Every family has a banshee?
I think that's how it works, yeah.
And that banshee screams or sings if someone else in the family is going to die?
If you hear them, you are the one who's going to die. You only hear the banshee when death is imminent.
I don't understand. Like if I'm the banshee in my family.
No, but banshees are a spirit.
Okay. So it's not a member of the family, but there's a banshee attached to the. I was like, wouldn't you know right away? Like, why can't anyone hear me? And then all of a sudden, someone is like, "Why are you screaming?" And then like, I was like, "I don't know.
You're gonna die."
And immediately, I was like, "What if I'm the banshee?" Like.
Growing up, I think my mom would be like, "Stop screaming like a banshee" or something. So I said it to my kids because that's what happens when you have children. You say things at them that your parents used to say at you, and they're like, "What's a banshee?" And so I was trying to explain, and then we learned more about banshees. I'm like, "Oh, they don't all scream; some of them sing." So the kids would like come and scream at me or sing at me, be like, "Death is coming for you." It was like a game we played for a while.
A bunch of like banshee red herrings.
Red herrings.
That's good.
Okay, let's talk about this book.
Yeah, because this book is not about banshees or vampires.
Unfortunately.
Or a love story. Even with Nick, like they weren't romantic.
What about is it Luke? Like, what about the absent partner? That's a little bit of a love story. She's always looking for him.
It's, that whole part breaks my heart. Like, even trying to like not think about it when I was trying to get our songs for the playlist, I started thinking about, what if you're just lying in your room thinking about like your baby and then your husband? That's just like so. That I would be one of those crazy people. I would go crazy. I would go crazy thinking what happened to them and making stories.
Yeah.
And
that is the only thing.
Serena Joy let her see the picture just for a second. Like, all of it, horrible, just horrible.
The relationship with Serena Joy is interesting in a way because like it's tough because the world's been constructed basically that everybody has to be against each other, right? So like it's basically gotten rid of intimacy because for any kind of intimacy you need trust, and nobody can fully trust anybody, like at all, and people might not even trust themselves. So like it's a world devoid of intimacy, but at the same time she still feels some kind of empathy for the other people, even if like they have powers to make her miserable and use those powers to make her miserable, right? Like she feels this empathy. And
Offred has empathy.
Offred has empathy.
Offred, yeah,
for
Serena Joy.
Well, she maybe not, but maybe in her own mind, in her.
I feel like they all should.
When she's sitting in her room alone and she's thinking back to be like, I fought for this, and like she's miserable too. Like everyone's miserable, and no one has connection anymore. So I think it's like it is interesting that she talks about these things. Like, what is it like for them? And maybe that's just her way of reaching for intimacy that she'll never have, because like if you're gonna, I don't know, like humans are social animals, so the people around you are the ones that you're gonna be interested in, because we all crave that kind of closeness or community.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Like I think everyone has some version of empathy in the world because they're all still humans, and like how well they like dampen it,
suppress it.
Yes, how far they suppress it, or like Offred who still has it. I wonder if you were to look at the characters, if their like goodness versus their evilness is also related to how much empathy they express. That would be an interesting thing to see, but I think that all of them would have some version of it somewhere because it's a human characteristic, right?
And how about how much their perceived goodness or evilness is directly related to how much power they have in their own life?
Ooh, I like that too. Because for Offred, high empathy, low power, right? Serena Joy, for example, moderate power, apparently.
Power over others, but not power over her own existence.
Yeah. And then like the guy, although I think that we have a conflict here because the guy was moderately empathetic, but I think he was just lonely, but still like his loneliness kind of looked a little bit like empathy as he gave her magazines and played with her. I think
he seemed good, but because he had more autonomy in his life, not like full autonomy because no one can.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if he really, so it makes me, his character, the handmaid before, got caught doing the same thing Offred did and killed herself. And then he starts up with Offred anyway and does the same thing with Offred that he did with the other one that killed herself.
No, they're all kind of stuck in their roles, right?
I think he's lonely though. Like I don't think
he's lonely too, but
I don't think he thinks he's risking her life when he does that, even though the first girl like killed herself. I don't think I think his loneliness probably overwhelms him to the blindness of that possibility. Yeah.
He's lonely.
But also
he's lonely. But he's still gonna do whatever he wants.
Of course, he has the most power in his household, anyways. Yeah,
he has the least
risk. Yeah.
Least risk. So he's risking everyone else.
Potentially the most at stake because of the fact that he holds so much power to risk it in such a way and get caught. I don't know who his above people are, but do they punish or are they just all at a party at the hotel? You know what I mean? Does he get put on a wall? Like, who goes on the wall? I thought it was like people they're making an example out of, but is it more specific than that?
So the priests, right? Priests they had a handmaid that did it. They had a wife that did it.
You're a gender traitor, as they call them. If you get caught,
if you abuse, like there was
doctors,
someone that was with a handmaid, like Nick.
So arguably the guy could go on the wall if he were caught doing whatever he's not supposed to.
Yeah. If you're a man that's not a commander and you're
but not a commander. I don't know if there's any commanders on that wall.
Well, that's what I'm asking, because you know how like even in today's society, people with power kind of protect each other, you know what I mean? And like don't punish, you know, let's say white collar crime as much as they would like whatever, right? And so and the thing that's interesting too, that's similar, is that they're all at a party at the hotel. So outside of the hotel, they're all like, these are the rules and these are the reasons why. And then at the hotel, they're like, forget the rules. Rather, they're literally
the rules are for everyone else.
Two people, exactly.
Yes. That's the point. The rules are for everyone else, not for commanders.
Yeah,
because they're the ones in power. So they
because everybody else is being
fun.
Yeah, everybody else is being treated as like a resource, right? Like rather than like, you know, this is the world I want, so I have to use all these resources to get back there. But like that's it. They've kind of severed that, like you're not a full person anymore. You're a means to an end.
That's a good question. What makes a person? I want to talk about what makes a person, right? Like what did they remove? Is it choice? And then also, where does pleasure play into this? Like when they're doing their mating rituals. I mean, and then also when she's sleeping with him later, like, I don't know, right? Those are two things that I think are worth talking about. I don't have anything to say. I'd just like to hear what you guys have to say.
We're the fans. You gotta tell us what you think.
Yeah.
Pleasure I think this important to make it full human. Is that kind of your question?
Well, it's kind of two questions, but that would work as well to address both of them, because you're saying like these people are not really people; they're resources. Like their personhood,
like that.
Their personhood has been taken from them. So what is it? Is it freedom? Like what is it that's been removed from them that now makes them not people or persons? I
think it's choice. I think that's that whole comment about freedom that I randomly pulled out of my book. Right?
How perfect.
You know,
this is like walking to your book club and having the story finished right as you get to the door.
I think choice, right? And then the people at the top still have the choice. But
it's not choice,
And then does passion tie into that? Is passion a choice? Is pleasure a choice? I guess so.
Acting on it, I suppose.
Getting to choose pleasure, right? Getting to have pleasure.
I mean, but that's the thing, they're trying to control also what people how they react to. So like you don't have any choice of what you do, and we'll only give you the answers, like the reactions that you're allowed to have as well. It's interesting too, and they're like, it'll be easier for the next generation because they won't know anything different. But that's another question. Will it be like, maybe it'll be a little bit easier, but maybe it won't. It comes down to, is it intrinsic, these needs for intimacy and
even pleasure,
autonomy? That goes back to nonviolent communication. Are these needs that are intrinsic, or if you never know them, can you be
do you know what you're missing? Be
content, or would you know that there's got to be something else out there?
It's like about the human spirit. And I think that they would know, you know what I mean?
I think they would know
4 generations into the future, they would be like there'd be some kind of an uprising. There'd be one person that, you know, just couldn't be suppressed.
I think there would be
2, and then 4.
And then 8.
Right.
Hopefully.
And then
or they'd all be killed and put on a wall. We'd have to wait till the next generation.
There'd have to be like a I don't know, critical mass.
I think it is. I think it's youth. No, like something's missing here. This isn't right.
Can you imagine being an ant? There. All these people, like they get their roles and they're like, well, my role, and then you just like Offred's trying to make sense of where she is. She's like, you know, at least she's not in the colonies or whatever, or dead. And then the question is death, is there a fate worse than death?
Well, and explain the colonies to me, because is there some perverted extra freedom from having that less status? Like, aren't they kind of more forgotten so they can kind of...
I think it's like there's heavy pollution and like you're sure to die probably.
You're cleaning up. You're cleaning up the pollution and you're going to die from cleaning up
a painful death.
But do you get to have a husband? Like, or could you have a partner? Like, can you be with your boyfriend?
I don't know.
You know what I mean? And have some slice of, right? Like some slice of happiness in your terrible existence. Could you still have love? Choice. Exactly.
Yeah, you have more choice.
Because like, as long as you're cleaning up the garbage, we don't care about you.
I don't know. She doesn't elaborate on the colonies.
Because she doesn't know. And they try to like instill like the fear of the colonies. Like it's the worst possible fate. Like your life is good here. You've got good food. There's no pollution and stuff. But I guess that's the question. Like those are different kinds of needs, right? Like within the wall there, you get certain needs met, clean water maybe and whatever, and a warm place to live, and maybe safety from, random violence, like the violence you get is it's coming. I guess, right?
Yeah, you can predict the violence.
And then is that better or worse? Does the Testaments cover that, or would there have to be another one that's a story of somebody who went to the colonies?
I can't remember the Testaments talk about the colonies, but the Testaments talk about the ants a lot and how they become ants and stuff.
I think there's gonna be another
one they go through to become ants. So that's so they're like how we were talking before about knowing someone else's story makes you're like, oh, the evil person had their evil person. So that happens with the ants.
I wonder if Margaret Atwood listens to this podcast, which maybe she does, because we are also Canadian.
Yeah,
maybe she'll write a story about somebody who went to the colonies.
I'd like to see that.
There.
I think that would be a cool twist if she wrote that story and that person somehow had freedom in love or something. You know what I mean? Like everything else was absolutely worst case scenario.
Right. All the emotions were high, like fear and uncertainty, but you had autonomy and love and like,
And remember, Offred's mom went to the colonies. Remember her friend Maura or whatever said that she saw her in a movie about the colonies. It was her mom.
So there's already a character that it could be about.
Yeah. It could be about her mom in the colonies. That'd be great. I'd read that book.
Does Margaret Atwood tweet? Like,
maybe.
I should say I copied her on Twitter and Instagram.
All right.
Some of our stuff. So I don't know if it mean anything. She does have an account.
You know what I did like about this book? Speaking of Margaret Atwood coming on the show, I did like the voice of Offred. Like I like how she told the story, and I like how she sometimes said like, I cannot tell this story, so I'll tell this story instead. You know what I mean? Like I felt more connected to her as a person than just a character, because she like wrote her like she would talk, I think, rather than just a story being told. There was even that time when she started the same story like 3 times over, and she's like, that's not really how it went, this is how it went, or whatever. Right? Like I enjoyed that.
Yeah. And how because it seemed real, how she's like, this is not going to put me in a very good light.
Yeah.
But here you go. Like, she didn't tell you.
Yeah,
that's genuine, because it's what someone would think, right? Yes. Yeah, it felt more real. I agree. Like she really felt like a real person. I think that's why, for me, it made it more scary.
Do you know what else too? Actually, back to the whole love and connection thing. If it's as bad as it is and you don't ever want to step out of line, I think it speaks to the human need for connection and intimacy, even if it's shitty intimacy, because she risked it all to continue to go meet with Nick.
And so many people risked for different things. People would risk a little bit of connection, be like, oh, I thought you were a true believer. I thought you were such a true believer too, or whatever, like Offglen or whatever.
Yeah.
She talks
about Offglen. I couldn't remember what her name was. But yeah, not knowing for so long if she was, and she finally became friends with her.
And then she disappeared. You know what I like too is, so I was waiting for something and I had the book and I was like, oh, historical notes. And I thought that it was going to be historical notes because this book is several decades old at this point, and I thought it was going to be historical notes about this book, but it's like historical notes about the story. Like, it's part of the book.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
I didn't read them. That's so funny because, like, in my personal journal, I was like, I was so disappointed at the end. I didn't even read those historical notes.
No, but the historical
you have
notes is the people who are looking over the story that she told, and they're what they think of it, basically.
Oh.
It's part of the novel, the historical notes.
Yes, you have to read the historical notes.
Maybe you'll get some closure.
Maybe they tell you that they found the tapes in this attic, and they're trying to authenticate her tapes, her story.
Attic. Right.
So this is supposed to be a tape? Like, she's supposed to be speaking?
She's speaking the story onto a cassette tape, and they had even because this is in the future, and these academics are studying this place that used to happen before where she's from, and they've discovered these tapes, and they were like old tapes from like music tapes hidden with her talking.
How did she even make those?
And they had to find even a tape player to be able to play them.
Yeah,
to figure out what they were.
The historical notes are being a partial transcript of the proceedings of the 12th Symposium on Galilean Studies held as part of the International Historical Association, blah, 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 June 25th, 2195. And so this is a transcript of, they've gone through the tapes and they're talking about it. As historians, academia. They're looking back at this time in history as historians.
What was the last book that we read?
You mean before that?
Yeah.
Before this book?
Oh.
I love that we none of us
number one.
This one.
Okay, right. So she had some like historical notes, and they were like about history. You know what I mean? And so I was like, I don't need that for this stupid book. I can't believe, I'm so glad we brought it up. But
you didn't finish the book.
No, I didn't finish
I'm not the only one. But I read the end, so between you and me.
Somehow the world doesn't exist anymore, and they're studying that
time period
when it did exist.
Okay.
And they discovered her tapes.
So the answer is it doesn't go on forever, right? Things change again.
Okay.
So when you're wondering, like, how will things, maybe.
It might. It gives you some satisfaction for sure.
We'll see, because if I get satisfied, I'm happy. Like many people out there.
Is that
you're
how
changing
it
your recommendation?
If I get satisfied, then I feel
satisfied.
I find
satisfaction extremely satisfying.
If you've enjoyed these video highlights, listen to the full episode on our YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts. Remember to like and subscribe and ring that bell to be notified when new episodes are published. Find out more by going to www.bookinterrupted.com.
Never forget, every child matters.